We started a journey for an enterprise-wide integration platform for the bank. The deliveries speeded up. Then we were having good number of application services rolled out at a comparatively faster pace. In the past, say 10, 12 years, many of the banks are recruiting technical talent. Banking now has changed completely, right? So it can't run without tech. See, technology is comparatively a easier puzzle to solve. I'm not undermining the technology complexity, but this also is more important. So in fraud detection, Gen AI plays a very, very important role. Chatbots and voice bots, both in, say, the typical English as well as multilinguality, which is very, very important for these banks. So AI
Mhm.
can be a very, very good help in terms of customer support, where we get that contextualization or that localization in place. Good morning to all of you. See, I've been working in the technology space for quite some time now, and also in the banking sector. Uh, See, in my journey there, I've been fortunate enough to have some mentors, okay, who actually helped me shape my career in terms of the BFSI tech. And again, fortunate enough to work on both the side of the table. That I have the say experience of working as a say as a consultant or as a partner to the banks, as well as from within the bank, wherein my journey within the bank started from State Bank of India and then with IDBI Bank. And currently, I am with um, National Urban Cooperative Finance and Development Corporation, working as a CTO. So this organization is like an umbrella organization for all the 1,500 odd urban cooperative banks across India. Uh, so yeah, there are quite a few. Say I would say not actually say huge say defining moment, but there are quite a bit of successful say projects and successful say initiatives had come my way during my career in say BFS Tech. Uh, Something like during my previous experiences working on key projects which were like new in the industry, something like on the prepaid payment instruments or lifestyle plus banking type apps, okay, as well as uh, say not everybody gets a chance as a CTO to actually build or say start building the entire say data center from scratch or maybe migrate from existing data center to a new data center. So those kind of experiences I had got in my career, as well as say drawing a full say length or full loan strategy for a bank in terms of what the bank wants to do in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of tech, in terms of digital, in terms of the emerging tech like say AI or the bots, okay, and also the blockchain. So had some good experience. One I can definitely quote during my days in IDBI was quite instrumental. In fact, it started, and with the blessings of my say mentors and bosses at that time, uh, we started a journey for a enterprise-wide integration platform for the bank, both inward facing as well as outward facing. Now, what happened is like the erstwhile architecture, which was more mix of say point to point and various say integration modes, and which always had a huge say technology debt, as well as was um, constraining the bank in terms of getting the right speed in terms of time to market. So with this integration platform, what happened is the deliveries uh, say speeded up. Then we were having good number of application services rolled out at a comparatively faster pace. Definitely, we had a maturity curve. Okay, so the erstwhile integrations which used to take say months, okay, and sometimes like close to a year, then were slowly going towards the target of 15-20 days. Okay. Now, what this also meant for the bank was um, we were able to onboard more than say 2025 say fintechs and startups into the banking services or the banking IT landscape. So areas like say the lifestyle things, areas like on the security side for using certain token-based authentication, or on the lending side, KYC, video KYCs, okay, all those things we were able to onboard quickly because we had this integration platform. So we also, in that journey, published and say our sandbox portal for various startups and fintechs to get uh, I would say familiarize with the bank's kind of APIs we had hosted. And then eventually, basis the due diligence, we were able to onboard the startup. Actually, what happened is by virtue of this particular say enterprise integration project, it actually helped to spawn a new say kind of a fintech project wherein the bank's fintech policy was crafted, as well as we were able to set up a fintech project management unit
Hmm.
which actually helped to onboard those many fintechs. And I today I am very happy that that project started. It took almost like for us it anything between 18 to 24 months to do this thing because it had multiple say I would say multiple partners who were say who had to make their effort in terms of integration, making the changes to the application, the infrastructure, the security. So it was quite a say complex as well as at the same time uh, quite a good project to have in one's kitty, okay? Because not every time we get to set up such kind of a transformative initiative in a career. So that was quite good.
I mean, I think that's really incredible. I mean, I think kind of way when you explain. So, I mean, you come with a background like while work with the TCS, Infosys, Mastech, which are more like the consulting firm, and then getting into like SBI, IDBI, NUCFDC. So, I mean, transforming from like the consulting to the core banking or banking thing. Did it change the way it helped you in influencing your approach towards like digital transformation journey? And did it play a vital role, like coming with the consulting background?
Yes, yes. I would say then say example which actually helped me in my early days in my career. See, typically in the IT companies or the consulting companies, so there's a team which works. There is a engagement manager or account director who's there, and then a team below him, both on the projects management side or technical architecture side. And then many of the team members are working in the backdrop. Now, what happens? Very few people in that particular, say, project team have access to the client in the sense directly speaking to the client or maybe at the client's place. Okay. So, what happens is they get the full picture, they get the full, say, direct and indirect objectives of the project or the engagement, as well as they know what the organization is thinking, who are the stakeholders, what's their vision, okay, everything they get. And what I have seen is more often than not, this particular information, which typically doesn't get documented every time, doesn't get passed on to the team members. So what I'm trying to say is, unless until that person who is, say, directly speaking to the client or is part of the meetings with the client, then he gets the full picture. Okay, because you may be developing some software or maybe working on some architecture or maybe trying to commission certain infra, but you don't know what's the end goal, what how does it fit into the larger scheme of things. Uh, so that experience helped when I changed over to the other side of the table if, in SBI. So all
Mhm.
that experience helped to actually try to ask the right questions, get the how this particular say approach or the design tenet or the construct how it is going to help the bank, help the project, okay, help the organization in terms of maybe its efficiency, getting more business, okay, increasing the say bottom line, things like that. Because what happens is uh, your technical experience definitely is important, but how do you leverage that technical experience into getting the best? possible, say, solution, overall solution, whether it is IT solution or a mix of techno-functional, or it's kind of a, say, a design, okay, you are able to get that for the organization helps. So my experience erstwhile in TCS or say Infosys or even Mastek, okay, really helped me to get that thinking hat, okay. Whenever we are interacting with partners, with consultants, okay, so you are able to get that, say, able to understand what they are saying. At the same time, we are able to ask the right questions, and this helps for the organization, in this case, the banking fraternity. And you must also have seen that uh, in the past, say, 10, 12 years, many of the banks are recruiting technical talent because
Yeah,
uh, banking now has changed completely, right? So it can't run without tech. So
yeah.
tech is actually the backbone of the bank, and this is true also for my current organization, where we are catering to the urban cooperative banks. And just to share with you, even the chairmans and CEOs of these banks who are like and nearing to superannuation, okay, and maybe the first generation or second generation bankers, even they have realized that yes, without tech, it's quite difficult to survive. So the I would say dissemination of tech in banking actually is quite good, and uh, tech is going to drive the business for the banks. So having a technical, say, experience or background really helps, and it has helped me personally as well to be able to deliver on the while working in the banks.
I mean, I think you made a quite valid point, like using tech in banking. So banking is no longer like a typical banking, but I mean, using the flavor of the tech has really helped banking in making the banking more efficient and available at the fingertips. So, I mean that's a paradigm shift. So, what were like the biggest challenges like you faced while executing this digital strategies for the large bank, and then how did you overcome those? Like, because it's not easy. Like, I mean, but once it is done, it seems to be easy. But the one who really initiated, the one who really executed, I mean, that person knows like what it took to get it executed. So, what are those like typical challenges you face, and how did you
So
overcome? Yeah.
right, right. So as always, like whenever such conversations are there, I and with the, say, partners or with the management as well, I have. Uh, I've always been saying that in any, say, digital transformation or a large transformation or a large tech initiative or digital initiative, see, technology is comparatively a easier puzzle to solve, okay, than the other things which constitute a project. So tech may be about, say, 40-50% of that, but then you have the entire stakeholders, uh, the end users, change management, adoption, and finally the ROI on the entire initiative. So typically, what I have been following here is like while your technology, strategy, design, the architecture, implementation, the project management on the tech, say tracking the milestones, monitoring, okay, and delivering on time as much as possible is really important. But the other part, in terms of how are you managing the stakeholders, right from getting the buy-in for initiating such a project, okay, and second is how are you making them, say, uh, aware of what is happening in the project, what is happening in that initiative, in terms of whether we are on the right track, whether we have made the right decision in appointing maybe a partner, whether we have taken the right decision in choosing this program, whether the timelines we had drawn, those will really help us, say, grow our business or go into the next orbit, okay, like that. So the stakeholder management is really, really important on one side, okay, who are really the um, uh, I would say the promoters or the influencers for the or decision makers for the project. That is one. Second is on the other side. once you have started a project, how are you, say, making the difference in the life of the user? Maybe it's a digital transformation project for a bank, but the end user who may be a staff or who may be the end customer of the bank, how are you making that difference, and how are you making it really visible to them in terms of uh, what really has changed, and what kind of governance mechanism you have over that change? Because what happens is, it if you start driving this entire thing as a tech initiative, more often than not, there would be delays. Maybe the project gets a detour. Maybe it just looked at as a tech project, and then the business or the operations is really not interested. So there has to be a kind of a equal participation from all the people who are maybe the consumers, users, and the stakeholders of the project. So there has to be a good steering done for this kind of an initiative. So that steering helps you in terms of, say, doing that big change management. Okay, and also adoption of the new initiative, because you can't just simply change your tech. I'll just take an example, maybe a core banking solution you are
Mhm.
changing in a bank, and you from X you are going to Y, but then you can't simply say assume that once you deploy Y, which is having, say, maybe the best features and the best user experience, yeah, the user will be so much enthusiastic to use it from day one. So what, because nobody wants to get out of their comfort zone. So in that change management, you have to marry the approaches in terms of what is best for the bank. How do you take out the user of the, say, the systems from his comfort zone and try to make him adopt the new way of doing things? Maybe you conduct a business process reengineering. Maybe you constitute kind of a steering committee for carrying out those changes. Some changes, sometimes you have to take a tough decision that this is going to happen in this particular fashion.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll have to take a call in terms of whether we need to um, make the change in system. Okay, so that kind of a change management really is important. In the sense, we need to have a fine balance in terms of how much, say, changes or say customizations or being in the comfort zone you are going to, say, allow, and how much is the new way of doing things are to be there. That is one. Then adoption. Adoption is another important, say, aspect, because uh, the user has to be made aware about the new system, how it is going to change his work life, how it is going to change his day-to-day activities, what are the new things which will help him to, say, reduce the overheads or the burdens of his work. Okay, how the system is going to take care of certain things, and at the same time, how it is maybe going to make his life a bit easier. So this kind of information has to be passed on to the user on a regular basis. So there are various ways in doing that. You create various emailers, you conduct various workshops, you have various, say, standees and emails, intranet pages, desktop wallpapers, all those things you can, say, publish so that the user is aware, okay, what's the new initiative is going to be, what it means for him. And this has to be done in various targeted groups. You cannot do it in one size fits all. So the adoption has to be segmented basis the users, say, groups, the kind of user profiles we have. Uh, Once we are able to do this, then your entire, say, the bigger initiative of, say, the transformation or digitalization, okay, or maybe a big tech project, okay, it goes on comparatively, say, easier to implement, and then you also get to, say, measure the ROI of the project. In that, you have to first define the KPIs right at the beginning of the project, so that you know where you are on, say, maybe 100th day or a 365th day, or maybe the second year or third year, like that. Because all these things are important. I'm not undermining the technology complexity, but this also is more important, equally important, if not, say, lesser. So I have been trying to follow this principle. So whenever there is a project team created, we also take care of having the functional experts, the domain experts as part of the team, as well as people who are going to be the end users. So every time there is a good exchange of and say thoughts, information, approaches, which helps us to say complete the project in the desired way and also get the right say output out of the project.
You made a very good point here. Like it's not like the one fits for all, and it needs to be like the tailor-made as per the need. And again, like getting the all the stakeholder involved, and then maybe like the top to down approach. Because like acceptability, it's not like easily. Nobody wants to move out of like the comfort zone, and that's been like the case for like any organization who's getting into like the transformation. So very valid points like you say. So as a CTO of now NUCFDC, what is your vision for the urban cooperative banking, and how do you see the new technologies like and the Gen AI, etc., shaping up its future?
Okay, so with regards to say NUCFDC, as I mentioned, so we are the umbrella organization for all the urban cooperative banks in India. Roughly,
Mhm,
there are about say 1,500 odd urban cooperative banks.
mhm,
And this organization is a joint initiative by the Reserve Bank of India and the Ministry of Cooperation.
mhm,
If I tell you in one sentence what we are trying to do over here is we are going to relieve the urban cooperative banks of their entire IT effort. In the sense, their back office becomes our front office. So we are going to centralize the IT for these banks, and in that say journey, we are going to manage their IT, right? Say hardware, software, monitoring, management, compliance, procurement, cyber security, okay, managed service, everything, so that these banks focus more on their business and banking operations. Because these urban cooperative banks, majority of these banks are smaller in size. However, the uh, however, the vision from the government also is that these banks should also be able to provide the full range of banking services, which typically a public sector or a private sector bank offers. Now, if these banks were to do this, say, change on their own, number one, it will take huge, say, financial strength to do this. Second is the competency and the skill sets, the manpower required for this. And third is able to sustain this. So all this for these banks will be very difficult. So hence, NUCFDC will be carrying out this, say, entire transformation program. These banks are very, very small in size. So the entire transformation and the availability of service for these banks in terms of full range of services, this needs to be affordable to them. So
mhm,
how the organization will be able to deliver the services at an affordable cost using economies of scale, technology cost coming down, okay, centralizing the entire IT. So this is what our charter is, and we are all gung ho about it. We are getting good say support from both our say parents, the Reserve Bank of India as well as the Ministry of Cooperation. And you will see that maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, the entire sector, the urban cooperative banking sector, there will be definitely a big change in the sector in terms of the digital side of things and the one I mentioned about tech being the backbone for these banks. Uh, and at the same time, what we are also seeing in terms of the banks, these urban cooperative banking management, when we are seeing a second generation of management, the CEOs and chairmen, they are also equally passionate about carrying out such kind of a large transformation of their bank. Many banks have started Many banks are just on the drawing board, but then we are there to do that heavy lifting for these banks. Now, while we do this transformation, definitely there comes a question, and you also have asked about like what it means in terms of the new age technologies, something
Mhm.
like say Gen AI or say the bots, okay, or blockchain. See, like other banks, okay, if I just pick out Gen AI out of it, now we have the say regular say things like uh, creating personalized service, something like say product recommendations, cross sell, say upsell to say uh, new existing customers. Okay, but then there can be other areas of where Gen AI would be very useful. Number one is fraud detection, like identifying the suspicious say activities, customer profiles, patterns, everything. Because see, today these banks, most of them uh, are not that much, say, having maturity in terms of digital customers. Okay, but then the moment these banks expose their entire bouquet of digital services, the very next thing that comes to mind in terms of protecting the customer as well as its data is the cyber security and fraud. So in fraud detection, Gen AI plays a very important role. Another area is, I would say, underwriting, wherein see the based on the customer data, uh, it can recommend the risk of default or maybe make the entire process in terms of STP. Typically, what happens in say quite a few of urban cooperative banks is this process of underwriting or maybe the proposal approval. Okay, all these things are kind of done in a semi-automatic way. But with Gen AI, this can be made more and more closer towards STP. Uh, Another area could be customer support through the voice and I would say chatbots and voice bots, both in say the typical English as well as multilinguality, which is very important for these banks. As I mentioned, the urban cooperative banks are spread across India, so we are talking to banks who are in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, even the Seven Sisters, okay, Uttarakhand, then Kerala, West Bengal, all those things. So you see the diversity of these banks. And the customers also want to say communicate with these banks in the local or regional languages. So AI
Mhm.
can be a very good help in terms of customer support where we get that contextualization or that localization in place. Uh, Another area I can think of is the financial, say, reporting or planning. So maybe analyzing the financial data, the earnings, the performance management, and things like that, which today, especially in these urban cooperative banks, as I said, are done semi-automatic way. But then these are pretty much standard things which the Gen AI can help. Okay. Then there are many other things in terms of generating the content, the risk assessments, but I would stick to these three, four things
Mhm.
for these banks in terms of the latest technologies. Uh, Another area in terms of tech for these banks is um, the assisted or the automated, the bot-based contact centers. Not many of these banks have the contact centers, but here, if there is a contact center created for these banks, and in the traditional way, it would be a costly affair for these banks, depending on the size of the banks.
Mhm.
But here, technology comes to the rescue. If we have a AI assisted, okay, a kind of a bot, and then it goes on to the human agent. Okay, maybe a voice bot or a chat bot. Okay, a text chat bot. So such kind of contact center will really be helpful for these banks. Uh, Number one, it brings in affordability. Number two, it brings in that contextualization or localization. So these are the areas I would say would be critical for these banks in terms of emerging tech. Deliberately, I'm not going towards the blockchain or the
Yeah,
AR, VR, okay? Because there is the things that I mentioned, those are itself like plateful, okay?
yeah,
So once we are able to do that, then probably we can think of the
absolutely,
next level of tech.
absolutely. Yeah, and also like technology gives you like 24 by 7 advantage. And this like the bot or this agents like AI agents won't take a leave and they are available 24 by 7, 365 days. So I think that really gives a edge compared to it and adds to like the value proposition from these cooperative banks. Okay. So the next is like you have led like various uh, enterprise architecture and technology innovation projects. Can you highlight some few initiatives which you feel like that has significant impact in improving the banking efficiency and your customer experience, or something which you would have done, which you want to highlight?
So, in my say earlier experiences, okay, so one of the initiatives that we had is about having a say a bot to uh, and it was assisted with a say a camera to check the I would say the behavior of the customer, okay, when he visits a branch. So uh, and it was early days. The AI and the LLMs were not that much say matured with the way it is today. But uh, we had developed that model using one of the IITs, okay, a startup incubated by one of the IITs. And we had done a good amount of, say, initial betas and pilots for various branches. So what it did was the customer who walks in into the branch, okay, so it gets it notices the customer, it notices the, I would say, what kind of say behavior or attitude or the look and feel, okay, whether he is agitated, whether he is calm, composed, okay, whether he
Mhm.
is more receptive, okay, all those things it used to notice. And then when he visits the actual desk, maybe a teller, maybe a customer service desk, or maybe a loan desk, maybe a deposits desk, okay, there also, when he's interacting with the bank officer, uh, the same, say, technology was used in terms of to identify, okay, what the customer uh, is currently, say, basis his gestures and say, look and feel, his facial expressions, okay, his voice, all those things. We are able to judge what the customer actually his feedback is. Okay, because not every customer is quite vocal, so basis gesture we were able to understand. We used to have a scoring model. Again, this was used when he is after the interaction. We used to find out, okay, basis the scoring model, what the customer really, whether he was happy with the service provided, whether he was agitated, whether he was not happy, whether he was okay. And this particular, once we started the beta or the pilot, okay, this particular initiative helped the bank, okay, and the officers also uh, to change the way they are approaching the customer. Also, it helped, okay, to be ready with certain information when the customer walks in. There were other initiatives which emanated out of this in terms of training the branch staff, in terms of soft skill, in terms of the banking knowledge, in terms of the knowledge about the systems, knowledge of the product schemes, everything, which helped the to change the perception about that particular bank. I'll not name that bank, but it change the perception on the user front who are visiting the branches in terms of, okay, yeah, this bank is changing the way of the interacting by the staff, the kind of services it is offering, whether it's able to resolve the queries, whether it is able to answer to all the, say, questions by the customer, whether it is new to the bank or existing to the bank. Okay, so it helped to improve that satisfaction score. Okay, typically what IT companies find out from their clients. So the customer satisfaction score it helped the bank improve its score, and which also say culminated into the staffs getting certain say kind of an star of the month awards or certain incentives, certain
Mhm.
programs, okay? And it further motivated them to do good in terms of not only the digital side of the service, but also creating that customer connect. Because even though, say, today we just spoke about the AI bots and the other things, but even today we still prefer to talk to a
Human.
human on the other side, right? Because it gives that feel, that connect. So hence, this particular initiative helped the bank to start improving and growing that customer connect with its customer, even to new to the bank customers. So that was a quite innovative idea, okay, and it was actually thanks to the sponsor in the bank who had that kind of appetite, I would say, to um, start such an initiative. It was almost like 5 6 years ago, uh,
Mhm.
and I believe that now it would have gone to the next level because the LLMs and Gen AIs and many models have now matured. So definitely it would have improved a lot. But that was
Yeah.
one of the, I would say, on the latest tech as well as innovative idea. Because typically we relate good customer services with the say the Amazons or the say the Ubers, okay, of the world. But then with the bank getting into that side of customer service was really innovative at that time.
And I think you made a very valid point. And there will be like the two set of the customers, like the one which requires like the personal touch. And with this technology, if like the a teller or call center agent having the information on his or her fingertips in seconds or milliseconds, so that itself also gives like a personal touch. But somebody I visit the inquiry or the teller of the bank or calling the call center instead of they holding, oh, hold the call for 10 minutes, but having those information at the thing and resolving the queries these days, you can say like it has really improved like customer experience. And the Gen Z or Gen Alpha generation, they tend to use all this tech. So I think, as I said, like the two set of the customers really, yeah. And I think banks and then everywhere, like you can see, as you rightly pointed out, the Amazons and the Ubers of the world or the Zomatos and all. I mean, really changing the experience of the customers. Like, so coming to the cyber security and compliance, which is like a big push from like the regulator and the bank also like they stay vigilant on these areas. So how do you strike a balance between the regulatory things and innovation? Because like if you try to innovate something, obviously there are like the pros and cons. So how do you strike that balance of regulatory and the compliance versus innovation?
See, being in the banking industry, we cannot say over. I would say ignore the rules laid or the guidelines laid by the regulator, and those are actually in the best interest of the customer as well. So we have to play within the regulatory construct. But yes, some things like if you want to say try out newer technologies, and the regulator also has been more than say open to ideas. It is proven also they have constructed this sandbox. They are putting up new say innovative organizations like the RBI Innovation Hub. Okay, there is a Rabbit. Okay, and they are also, if you say aware, a few weeks ago they also announced they are going to create some indigenous cloud as well. So they are also open to new ideas.
Mhm.
But being a bank, and it's a bank being a living organism, okay, you have to also take care of the customers. So when you try to experiment, number one is we have to be in the regulatory construct. But yes, in terms of you want to try out certain things, uh, maybe it is on the say the beta or the pilots you conduct. That is one. Second is if you're trying out say newer technologies, it has to be say uh, compliant to the cyber security laws, okay, and the guidelines laid by CSIT or RBI, okay, or in fact even the government of India, okay, in terms of from the NITI and other things. So we have to be within that construct. Having said that, depending on the criticality of that workload, depending on the criticality of the business application, you can find a balance. Some An example could be where you don't want the say the customer data to go out of your premises. We can leverage the say something like the cloud to get the compute, especially in case of say the LLMs, okay, or the AIs, okay, of the world. We can use that compute because building that a big, say, kind of a GPU-based infrastructure would be too much for any organizations to build from scratch. Again, it will not have be having the collective intelligence. So something like using say advanced analytics, using some AI, say components, okay, we can leverage something like the cloud technologies, but at the same time uh, use the existing or the on-premise infrastructure to remain compliant with in terms of cybersecurity as well as in terms of the regulatory guidelines. Uh, as I said, production, non-production, and some pilot. So you can divide your entire, say, scheme of things into how do you go about, say, the production workloads, how do you go about experimenting, creating some sandboxes, creating some pilots, some betas, okay? That way we can do, if you really want to try out with certain, say, analytical, say, solutions, and you still need, say, data from the customer, the data obfuscation, masking, creating dummy data, that would help. Um, but the underlying rule remains: we have to be compliant. We have to um, ensure that the breach of trust of the customer is not broken, because the entire banking works on trust. So if the data of the customer is there with the bank and it is not getting leaked anywhere, it's good for the bank. At the same time, there is a regulatory aspect to it. So what I'm trying to say is we have to conduct those, say, POCs or pilots or betas, okay, within the construct, and use techniques for data privacy or protection to try out newer things. Um, because unless until we try, okay, and the banks or the financial institutions, they have to try out, okay, otherwise we'll be left behind. And number one, and number two is uh, the new tech basis the use case which it is trying to solve or address will help the bank to create that differentiator, okay, in terms of its services, in terms of say the connect with the customer, okay, like that. So there is not much of a, I would say, a room available, but we have to play within the construct. We cannot simply go on the other side of the compliance and then try out new things, which will be kind of detrimental for the bank.
Do you think like many a times like we face like or we hear from the banks and the institution about the apprehension about the cloud or deploying it on the cloud? So does the RBI guidelines or any regulatory guidelines, I mean, restrict or about the cloud? Because in India we have seen wherein like the other part of the world, I mean, people are like happy to go on the cloud, even if it is like the bank or insurance companies way. So about the data localization or data security. So there must be something on the cloud from the RBI side. Anything you want to throw a light on that?
Yes, I think now, sometime in 2023, there were two big master directions from RBI. One was about IT outsourcing, another was about governance, risk controls, and assurance practices. In both these, they had given clear guidelines, okay, in terms of the cloud, and which was also riding on the guidelines from meeting for public cloud providers. So, see, um, to the point we are able to adhere to the data protection, data privacy, and sovereignty, um, RBI or say any regulator for that matter will not be having any issue in using the cloud. So the real problem is uh, there is hardly any indigenous cloud provider. Okay, so And what we as say citizens should also understand is that uh, these cloud providers are predominantly foreign and mostly are US. Okay, so they are governed by their say Cloud Act. Okay, and whatever we may say, some or the other information, if it is not data, maybe it is metadata, which is uh, maybe it goes outside. Not too sure because they promise you those 4 or 5 nines of availability, and to give that, definitely they have to follow the sun. So you don't know who is watching your metadata or logs or say data in itself. So there is that fear. I'm not saying it is there, but there is this the perceived fear. And the government as well as the regulator is quite right, saying that it's about the financial ecosystem of the country, right? So if tomorrow something goes wrong and the data is outside the backbone, okay, the financial ecosystem, which is the backbone for the country, it could have problems in that. So we also need to be equally cognizant that yes, we use certain say cloud which is compliant to the law of the land in terms of data privacy, protection, sovereignty. At the same time, we are not losing out on the say the emerging tech. Okay, because there's also another thing that these public cloud providers bring in is the new or the innovations or the latest advancement in tech, both in terms of the regular tech, the GPUs or the AIs, okay, or newer, say, huge computing power, um, the Gen AI and things like that. But we have to be also equally responsible for where we are storing our, say, data workloads, okay? So that has to be really thought through. As I said in the beginning, any regulator is not averse to using the cloud, say public cloud, so to say, but it has to follow the uh, law of the land in terms of especially the data privacy, and which I think so the government also has put out the rules for DPDP this year. So those has to be followed just to protect the interests, number one of the customers, number two of the organization, and number three of the country itself. So we have to be like uh, cognizant of that, and it's more like a say a self-governance. Okay, so they have put out the rules in their audits. They may find out, but then we have to also ensure that we are following those rules. So if the cloud or the provider is able to adhere, comply with those rules, it's good for both the parties, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there is always like the pros and cons of both sides, where like the cloud gives the elasticity. So during Diwali or Christmas or big for Black Friday or kind of where the transaction ramps up, and then then again it just goes down. So that scalability or elasticity is available, wherein like when you get into like on premises, you are buying for for some TPS which you will hit like in year once or twice. So, I mean, there are always beneficial, but like the most important from the banking and regulators perspective is like the data security, which is the key. So about like the next question was like about Gen AI in banking, but a few of them like you have already addressed, like saying how bank can leverage like the Gen AI improving the customer service, fraud detection, risk management. You already talked about it. And then how Gen AI will replace the traditional banking, and then any like if you can have a comment on it, like where in the traditional banking Gen AI can play a vital role in improving those systems.
Yeah. So a few of those already I had mentioned, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
regarding the Gen AI, and what I also say have read it that I think so. It's from McKinsey or someone that uh, Gen AI could add literally about say 200 to 300 billion-dollar in global value annually to banking. Okay, maybe by 2026 or 2027. Okay, that's the forecast they are having. Uh, in terms of say, especially using Gen AI, so. We can have, say, the machine learning algorithms and AI to analyze, say, for example, vast amount of data from multiple sources, and maybe create an improved holistic financial picture of the maybe the loan applicant for, say, improving credit scoring. Uh, it could also, say, identify potential risks, both financial and otherwise, and maybe give some early warning signs, okay, so that banks can have time to adapt and possibly mitigate losses, if any. Uh, that is one. Another is, say, something like, say, financial forecasts. Okay. So maybe the bank can train the AI on its historical financial data. Okay. And that can help the bank to make certain financial forecasts, and maybe some, uh, say, can identify patterns and relationship in the data. Okay. Maybe on certain scenarios, the CFO and the team can run those, say, patterns or models. Okay, primarily looking in the past, so that the bank can take better financial decisions in the future. That is second. Uh, you also have the, say, the new age, say, the NLPs and enterprise chatbots, which provide the human-like, say, experience. Um, some things like it can provide updates on the balance. Maybe it can also answer the customer queries, and it can also go to the extent of maybe doing some P2P, say, money transfers. That also can be explored in terms of GenAI. And I don't think it's impossible, uh, provided we have the right kind of securities, the authentication, and the identification in place for the customer to have that trust to do those kind of transfers. Uh, it can also help in terms of, say, personalizing the customer experience, maybe doing the product recommendation. Say, for example, basis the customer, say, financial or digital footprint and his lifestyle, it can maybe recommend a credit card to the customer, okay, or maybe some, say, some, say, deposit for the insurance, okay, or maybe some product it can recommend. Uh, we also have uh, the conversational AI. So, as I mentioned, the localization in terms of multilingual support through virtual assistant. Also, it can go to the extent of accessibility, say, people with who are physically challenged, maybe through text and voice navigation options. It can help those customers as well. I think so. Conversational AI and AI assistant, uh, probably some banks in US are already using that. If I remember correctly, Wells Fargo, or Bank of America is using it already. Then it can also help. Say, basically, training we give it. It all depends on what kind of data or training data we are able to provide to the Gen AI. Okay, it can also give financial, say, advice to the customer, and at the same time, see, what will happen is it gives the financial advice. It also helps to do the customer support. Okay, and which in a way helps to enhance the experience of the customer. It what will happen is it will help these banks, number one, to automate the complex tasks. Number two is on the fraud prevention detection. Number three is giving personalization services with reasonable accuracy. So bottom line is it will help the bank to transform its, say, the application platforms to increase the efficiency, and at the same time enhance the experience of the customer.
Mhm.
Yeah, there could be also other areas which may say that yes, it could help to reduce cost, but that needs to be seen, because AI also comes at a cost, right? The moment it's on the cloud, there is considerable cost involved. One other thing is you can use it in the decision-making process as well. Uh, Having said that, we also need to be really, say, cognizant of the fact of its risk and challenges, especially in terms of data. So in the Europe, you have the GDPR. So over in
GDPR.
India, we have, yeah, DPDP. So we have to see how we are able to, say, use AI within this construct of data protection. Uh, all is said and done, so it has tremendous power. Okay, it has tremendous power in terms of changing the uh, entire banking services, and in a matter of fact, otherwise outside banking as well. But uh, the risk should be carefully examined, and accordingly a decision may be taken in which use case really we want to employ or deploy AI. Um, I believe if we are able to strike a balance between the risk and the usage, this particular tech has a huge potential um, to change the entire experience, both inward as well as outward.
So do you think like, I mean, what are the challenges like from bank perspective to adopting the generative AI? I mean, like, are there any specific challenges and then how they can be overcome?
Uh, Challenges in terms of, if you can elaborate.
Yeah, like, I mean, in terms of, I mean, the internal resistance, or like maybe like the fear of people losing the job, or like saying like, okay, whether Gen AI has reached to that maturity level, or it could be like a technological. So it could be either perceived as a human or regulatory or technological. You're on mute.
Sorry. So, see, the workforce or the people, okay, need not worry about losing jobs, okay. See, it also happened during the time the computerization journey started, right? People thinking people will lose jobs, but in a fact, as a matter of fact, it has increased the number of jobs. So today, if you see the service industry, predominantly the IT service industry, is also in the top, if I'm not wrong, top 4 or 5 biggest employers, at least within India. So when AI comes, yes, there will be fear, but it also opens up new, say, competencies and roles, right? Like say data scientists, AI engineers, AI security experts. Okay, then the people who actually train or create those models. So those areas are there. So on the work side, I don't think people could worry about. Yes, in terms of challenges, as I mentioned earlier, there could be considerable costs involved in implementing the AI. Uh, the areas that we say look is like uh, training and maintaining those AI models, which requires huge investment in terms of, say, personnel, the skilled personnel, as well as the tech. Over here, maybe the bigger banks may be able to do it, but especially smaller banks, and if I take a step back in terms of cooperative banks, they may struggle with these costs, okay, in terms, and hence the adoption of AI would be at a uh, comparatively lesser pace.
Mm.
Another challenge is on the integration. Okay, so in the existing, say, if I talk about banks, in the existing, say, integration with banks' current systems, which are not based on modern technologies, especially the heart of that, the core banking.
Mm.
If it is not modular, not having that microservice approach, not having an open kind of an architecture, it becomes very difficult and a costly affair for bank to use those that AI technologies on the perimeter. Okay. That is second. Uh, yes, there say on the security side, yes, there could be a fear in terms of, say, the hackers can exploit or there could be vulnerabilities. But if we are able to follow the rules of the game in terms of the typical fortification and the cybersecurity, new age technologies, okay, which also not only depend on signatures but also on behaviors. That way it can help you to give some level of protection. Uh, Another area is the challenge, I would say, in terms of bias, I would say, of the model itself. Okay. So, as I some time ago I mentioned, okay, right, to ensure this, okay, you get a good, say, output from the model in terms of decision, in terms of recommendation, okay, you need to have quite a heterogeneous data, okay. The training data that we give to the model needs to be quite heterogeneous. Otherwise, it will lead to, say, biased or discriminating decisions, okay? Maybe for underwriting, maybe for rate appraisal, maybe for recommendation of product. So the data size has to be carefully thought, the kind of data we are using for training the AI. That is one challenge, and it's not that it cannot be solved, but it takes quite some time to, say, provide or provision such data. So that is another, say, challenge. Um, with Especially with respect to Indian context, I would say on the regulatory side, I think there is still some work to be done on, say, their stance on using AI in financial services. So we need some kind of, I would not say uh, exact, say, guidelines, but some kind of a overall framework we need on where and, say, how the AI could be used within the rules of the game. So some regulatory perspective is required. Data protection already DPDP is out,
Mhm.
but some regulatory perspective for AI is required. Um because see, I'll just give one example. Okay, uh, we talk to certain banks. Okay, or maybe certain banks are uh, have employed certain AI tools. An example is they keep calling you for, say, 10 days before your EMI is due. And then they again call you after 5 days to the due date. Then they again call you 3 days to due date. So you kind of get irritated. And you know it's not a human agent, it's some AI
Mhm.
agent who is doing that job. Now, that is one aspect. Now, imagine that AI agent also giving you some recommendation in terms of maybe an investment, maybe buying a credit card, maybe take providing certain rate of interest for a loan. Now, it needs to be seen, okay, whether how much trust it can get from the customer when some agent is, the AI agent is doing this recommendation for you. Initially, there could be skepticism, okay, from the customer, but over a period of time, again, it goes back to the data. If the data is given, say, good data is given to the model, the maturity of the AI improves, and which in turn, say, results in the generating good, say, trust gradually from the customer side. That is, I would say, more or less the challenges could be for any bank, okay, in terms of implementing or adopting uh, the data, the AI piece. Okay, there are other things also, but I think these are the major ones which I feel.
Yeah. I think you rightly articulated. So, like moving to the leadership and industry recognition. So we understand, like being named again amongst like the India's top 50 CTO in 2023, which is like the remarkable achievement. So, what kind of the leadership principles you follow that have really contributed getting this kind of recognition?
Yeah. So number one is uh, you have to have faith in your team. Okay, because uh, the team is what you are like. Okay, so ultimately the team is responsible for delivery. You need to have faith in them, and you the way you can generate that trust or faith is you give them sufficient room for their work and not do too much of, say, micromanagement. Meaning is, if you show them what is the big picture, okay, and tell them what is required, leave the how part to them, okay, because everybody has, say, if not same, equal amount of gray matter. So and you have hired those professionals to work for you, so it's no point in teaching them, okay, how do they need to go about doing their job. So you can just define the what and the when, and probably leave the how part to them. And instead of just waiting, you can take those, I would say, regular or periodic, say, discussions, reviews with them to understand where how far they have come, what are the challenges they are facing. That is one. Second is an open door policy. So you, although there could be a chain of commands, but then you as a leader should be approachable. So even the person who is actually at the bottommost layer of the chain, okay, should have that, say, comfort and no fear to approach you for whatever reason. Okay, and third, which I kind of practice. So whenever there is a, say, I join a new organization, or maybe people join new to my team, I conduct one-to-one with each and every person, okay, of my entire team, the entire hierarchy, right till the bottommost layer, okay, and try to understand the person. Uh, because see, one thing that I believe is like your personal life should be kind of a sorted, so that you can focus on your professional life. And this typically is for those people who are, say, traveling for their jobs, go to other states, other cities. Okay, so you need to have your personal front kind of a sorted, so that you then are able to deliver in your professional life. If your mind is, say, divided between these two things, then it really becomes difficult for the person. So you can do that job for maybe a day, week, month, okay, but over a bit of time, say, it becomes very difficult for the person to do that job. So that is number three. And number four is you have to celebrate the small successes. Not every time you will get large, say, programs, large, say, transformative initiatives, which gets the eyes and the ears of the top bosses. Okay, so whatever work you have, and if you have done a good job, you should be able to celebrate that success with the team. So these three, four things, I try to follow as much as possible, so that you get that uh, team culture. Okay, so it should be a kind of a fun to work with the team, because the stick approach doesn't work really, because it's a um, white collar job. So stick approach doesn't work. You need to be all inclusive. At the same time, you should not be losing the focus on the end goal.
I think I liked it, and I think, I mean, you made three, four valid points. So one is like striking that work-life balance, and then because like the personally and professionally, you should be like really not mixing, and that should not really bother or trouble you. Another thing is like celebrating the small victory. I mean, these days, like even Indian team, if you ask Rohit Sharma, he said like, okay, we go match by match. We don't care about the Champions Trophy or World Cup or a series. So we just think match by match. So which is again like when people are thinking about it. Another, it reminds me, I think, I believe, if I'm not wrong, Steve Jobs said. So he used to say, I hire the people not to teach them what to do, but I
Correct.
hire the people to learn from them how to do. So I mean, don't hire smart guys and then teach them what to do, but learn from them how to do. So I mean, I like that. So that just reminds me, if I'm not wrong, it's Steve Jobs or Bill
Yes, it
Gates,
is. Yes, it is.
one of them, they said it. So that's a really good
Correct.
point. So I mean, here, what advice would you give to like young technology professional aspiring to become a leaders like you in the banking and the fintech fraternity? Like,
So, my if I may advise, my only advice would be you should, number one, get the view of the full picture. Okay. So in IT, there is this stream, or say, fraternity of people who are architects. Okay. Now, architects is quite a complex skill. Okay, and it's quite a complex job. So because that architect has to talk in technology language with the tech people and in kind of a business language with the business people to get that buy-in for his solution or whatever. Okay. So if the wanting to be leader is able to play that role of that architect, okay, where he's able to communicate in that language with that particular audience, okay, that goes a long way. Because you may be very, very good in tech, okay, but then if you're not able to communicate your vision, your approach, your strategy, your say information, and it's not understood by the other party, be it your stakeholder or the customer, or in fact your team as well, it becomes very difficult to do your job. That is one. Second is uh, you should try to say expand or say the breadth of your knowledge. Okay, uh, because now many things are say things that in my initial days we were struggling to do the coding and things like that. Now you just search on Google, you'll get all ready-made codes available. Okay, but you should be able to know where to use what. That comes with your expanding the horizon in terms of tech, the breadth of the knowledge. Okay, where to use Java, where to use say the AI, where to use Python, where to use say R. All those things you should know as a tech leader. And third is on the domain side. I know it's very difficult to become the domain expert, but try to get as much as possible knowledge of the domain in which you are working, be it banking, be it insurance, be it some other area, because that will help you design more and more tailor-made contextual solutions, okay, as a tech leader. Um, these are the three piece of advice I would say, or maybe suggestions from my side to aspiring, say, technologists or technology leaders. If we are able to follow this, I think so. We are doing our job.
Well, I think that's a very good and valid suggestion. So, with your experience across like a global market, how does India banking technology landscape compare to the international standard? So, like, are we like ahead? Are we at par, or we are like lagging behind? I mean, this is digital banking and fintech perspective.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, we are quite ahead. We are quite ahead in terms of, I would say, digital payments and the fintech space. Especially in payments, we are quite ahead. Okay, and it is thanks to all the UPIs and the P2P payments and the say other fintechs who are in that space. It also is due to the fact that see ours is quite a young population. I think so the average population of India, if I'm not wrong, roughly is around 30,
Yeah.
the age of the population, right? So we have a very, very young population, young workforce, and which helps to for the adoption, also tech adoption. That is second. Third, the mobile phone penetration also, I think so maybe second or first, I don't remember correctly, is in India. And the time I read this somewhere, the time it took for the landlines to penetrate to nook and corner of India. I think so, one fifth or one sixth of the time the mobile phones were penetrating
Yeah.
across India. And one other thing that helped, which one other thing that helped is uh, in terms of the, although it was not a good thing to have, but in terms of say the pandemic, okay, it also helped to what you call um, kind of expediting the digital side of things. So overall, India is poised good um, in terms of digital and payment space. In fact, most of our say the especially the UPI is there in many of the countries now, and people are using that. Be it say in the Middle East, be it in Nepal, okay, Sri Lanka, and other areas also. Even France, I was reading some time back that. We are our UPI they are going to, or a UPI like model they are going to adopt. So we are at a good, I would say, position, and we'll just keep on growing from here. I don't see that we will be kind of laggard or followers, but
Mhm.
definitely our say banking tech space and overall banking, we are going to grow from here.
Hmm. And I think it's a good point. And as you like real-time payments, we are the number one in the world, and then followed it by Brazil. And then the amount of the transaction India does versus Brazil is like the one third. So there is a huge gap between the number one and number two. And then the rest all follows like they're too low compared to. It's a very valid point. So how do you see like typically like the cooperative bank playing a role in evolving India's financial ecosystem? And what kind of the technology advancement can drive their growth? I mean, though you touched upon few of them in earlier questions. So, any specific short answer you can?
Sure, sure. So see, one thing that is very good about these cooperative banks is they have a very, very strong connect with their customers. So the connect with the customers is very, very good. And they are providing, say, personalized services to these customers, something like doorstep banking. And uh, uh, these people, the staff of the bank, literally know the customers by their face. So that's a very good part. Okay. Yes, they are a little bit left behind in terms of the digital side of things, but that's where NUCFDC comes into the foray. Today, also, these banks are the urban cooperative banks are playing a very big role in the financial inclusion of the country. So, quite a good amount of the government schemes, okay, and the population which is not say catered to by the bigger banks, okay, these banks are giving that kind of a service, banking service to those sector or those area of the population. So that way, once NUCFDC and these banks come together for this transformation, we are able to do this. The entire, say, population which is catered to by these banks will get those digital services, and at the same time, this will further have a ripple effect in the overall digitalization of the country. So, see, in terms of digital, we are very good in, say, banking and maybe one or two other sectors. But overall, if you see, there are many other areas where digital penetration is not that good. Now, by virtue of these cooperative banks having their say structure in a way that its customers also are its members, and they are having a good cooperative customers who may be cooperative businesses. So once we digitize these cooperative banks, their end customers also start, say, increasing their maturity on the digital side of things. So today, maybe a, a small scale enterprise, okay, who may not be having, say, a mini ERP or maybe a HR solution, via this digitalization of these cooperative banks, they will be able to integrate their systems. Okay, first, number one, get the systems. Number two, integrate this with the bank so that then we are able to do that corporate side of banking easily. So, digitization of cooperative banks is going to be kind of a game changer. Okay, for the digitization of the country as a whole. You will see more and more people, say, having digital, say, I would say digital teams, digital staff, digital platforms onto the enterprises. So that way, this is going to be playing a very big role.
Mhm. So I believe we overshoot the time. So do you have 5 to 8 minutes or like I mean I can understand you will have like back-to-back meetings.
Yeah, yeah, I have
So
some meeting actually.
exactly, like I could feel that. So should I mean there are like the left out 4 or 5 questions which we can share it over email, and then maybe
Please, please.
yeah, because in the interest of the time, because like there are always like the back-to-back meeting scheduled, and then uh, the
Yeah, yeah,
flip
yeah.
part of that COVID is like at times people look at our calendar and then set up a meeting. So I really thank you and appreciate for your time. but those 4 5 questions which are more of the your personal insight and the inspiration, I would want the answer on it. So I will ask Arshi to write those questions to you, and then you can revert on that. So I really
Sure, I
thanks
will do
for
that.
like your wonderful insight, and it was indeed pleasure talking to you. I will look forward to see you soon in person. I'm also based in Mumbai, so I will catch up with
Great.
you soon. It will be my pleasure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a ton for making this up.
Yeah, and thanks from my side as well to the entire team and Prasad ji to you as well. Wonderful talking to you and would love to meet as soon as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, my pleasure, sir. Thank you.